Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Let me ask from a defensive perspective first. When your offense is struggling as much as the Saints is, how much does that weigh on you to feel like you got to be perfect every time you go out?
I think it eventually starts to take a toll. I mean, when you're a defense and you're holding people under 20 points week after week after week, and you feel like that's still not good enough, you start to get a little frustrated. You start to think, man, what else do we have to do? And then guys start to take subtle jabs at each other in the locker room, all in jest, and make a joke of it. But things like that can start to divide a team if you don't pull your weight on both sides of the ball.
So I'm glad you went there. We talked about it a bit yesterday, but you've been in these locker rooms, so I'd love your perspective to hear Demario Davis, to hear Alvin Kamara allude to the fact that guys maybe aren't doing everything they're supposed to be doing, to hear the frustration from Cam Jordan. What do you hear? What do you see when you hear those things?
I see a group of guys that feel like they should have a Super Bowl trophy to their name. A little bit of it, especially with Cam, is that window is closing. And guys like this, like the 17 draft class, probably look back and they think about the egregious call in the NFC Championship game, where they think about those couple of years where they were probably the best team in the NFL or one of, and they start to think, are we ever going to win one? And I kind of hear that in their voice. And to me, this team has almost had too many player meetings. At some point, it's not about getting together, holding each other accountable. That's day one stuff. If you can't do that by week 5, week 6, I think that says there's a bigger issue on your team, because it's a known. For me, every time we stepped in the locker room, especially before a game, it was about doing your job. And if today was your day to get 4 tackles and you were containing the ball every play, then that was your job. Maybe today was your day to get 20 tackles because they checked the ball down every play and we're playing cover 2 every play. So I think guys just need to kind of accept their role and know that every week is not going to be your week where you catch 20 balls or get 20 targets. You have to have a selflessness about you if your number one goal is to win a championship.
That's good perspective. Did you won one, but you were also part of teams that were trying to get there, right? Then you get there in 2009, but you didn't get back. 11 was the one that's glaring, right? I mean, it was the best team the Saints ever had by most people's standards, and fell short. Did you ever feel that, Scott, or did climbing that mountain sort of satiate that hunger?
No, I think once we all did it once, we just assumed that because we were able to accomplish it, that we were going to have this mini dynasty. We looked around. Drew was in his prime. We looked at the veteran guys, myself, in the prime of their career, and contracts said, hey, we got a couple more years to do this. We can win 2 or 3 in a row. And then in 2010, we had a bunch of injuries, which you can never account for. We go to Seattle and lose a playoff game we had no business losing. But the next year we came back. You're right. 2011, as much as I think about winning it in 2009, I think about not winning it in 2011. We were the best team in the NFL that year. Nobody cares outside of us, but history shows we weren't the best team in the NFL that year. And I talk about it all the time. When you play teams that you're supposed to beat and you don't, those things always come back to bite you. That year in 2011, heck, we're hosting playoff games if we beat the Rams on the road, a horrible Rams team that we dropped a game to. And so those games you're supposed to win, you have to win. The toss-up games, like the Jags, to me, it's a toss-up game when the schedule comes out. Those things come back to bite you when you don't take care of business when you're supposed to.
Scott Shanle is with us. He's on Twitter at Scott Shanle. Man, I'm glad we went there. As painful as it is, right, to talk about, it's great perspective. So fast forward to the now. So that's the reality of what all these guys are living with right now, the veteran guys who have yet to get to that point. I think maybe there's some realization setting in about this window closing. Scott, how do you get this thing on track to prevent what happened a year ago, which is the win 1, lose 2? You know, just the 1 step forward, 2 step back. What do you do?
To me, it's about the reason we had consistency, I think, from 2009 to 2011, and I believe we won more games than anybody in the NFL.
Yes.
there was a demeanor about the way we approached every day of the week. I think as fans, you don't realize just how much time is going in between games, watching film, lifting weights, practicing. And the frustrating thing for me is like, this team looks the same every week. What are we doing in between the Sundays? Because I know when we were on that run in 09-11, our practices were fast, physical, violent, and practices were harder than the games. And I know people say that, but it was the truth. You were exhausted at the end of our practices. And I don't know if that's what's going on. I haven't been to any practices, but you can only prepare for Sundays by the way you approach your work Monday through Saturday.
So who is that a reflection on? Is it Dennis Allen? Is it the lack of player leadership? Is it the fact that Sean and Drew aren't there? Who do you think that's a reflection on?
I think some of it, yeah, you always have to go. Coaches have to take responsibility for it, the way you conduct practice. But also, I understand it's a new NFL. I understand guys are more pampered now. I understand guys take veteran days off when you only have 2.5 practice days a week. Friday's not really a practice day. To me, like, unless you're hurt, why are you not practicing? That's just the way I look at it. I don't believe in veteran days because everybody can perfect their craft, no matter where they are in their career. So I just think it's a new NFL. When you look at the offseason, the limited amount of time they practice in the offseason, the training camps are a joke. So the offensive lines around the league look like crap for the first month of the season. Heck, it's hard to find a 300-yard passer anymore. It's just the offensive lines can't protect the passer. The receivers and the quarterbacks don't have timing like they used to because of all the reps in the offseason. I really think the changes we've made to the offseason and giving back practice time has affected the game, the product on Sundays.
Can this Saints team fix it this year?
Absolutely. I think they can, and I think sometimes people maybe think I'm too optimistic about this team, but I just look at it on paper, and if I were a general manager or a coach in the NFC South, what roster would I take? I'm taking the Saints. Because at many positions, they're better than the other teams in their division. So the reason I'm optimistic is because they play in a horrible division, and that's probably not going to excite Saints fans. That's my optimism, but it's the truth. You win a bad division, and you start clicking at the right time, and you host a playoff game, anything can happen if you get in the playoffs. It's all about playing your best football when it matters most. We've seen plenty of teams peak in September and October. It's pointless. So because of the roster this team has, Pete Carmichael's been there since 2006. I know he's under the lightning bolt right now by a lot of people. He ran the offense in 2012 when Sean wasn't there. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been in all those meeting rooms. If there's anybody I trust to fix it, it's the coaches who have been there, who have won a Super Bowl and saw how it was done before. And I think we have talented players enough to turn it around.
By the way, Scott, for whatever it's worth, I mean, you're not alone. The Saints are still the odds-on favorite to win the NFC South. I mean, the people who build the shiny buildings in the desert are siding with you. I mean, you're right in that it's a bad division, and the Saints are probably the most talented team in this bad division. I think the big picture question, and the last thing for you is it enough to be the best team in a bad division, or is this just a house of cards that's doomed to fall?
Well, I think if you don't win a bad division, there's going to be major changes. There's going to be different people coaching different positions. There's going to be different players playing those positions because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. If this continues to play out this entire season, you can't continue to do the same thing with the same people. So that's just the reality of the NFL. And you have to sell hope to your fans, whether it's you draft the quarterback high, whether it's you change coaches, whether you change different players on offense or defense. You can't have a hopeless fan base. It's not a fun season to go through. It's like when I've never been on a really bad team, but I assume when you're 4-8 and you can't make the playoffs, that's a hopeless season. That's not fun to be a fan or a player in. So you have to sell hope to your fans and to your team.
Scott Shanle on Twitter at Scott Shanle, of course, Super Bowl champion, and always great perspective, man. We appreciate a couple of minutes as always. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.